Most of us expect a good deal of familiarity when it comes to the everyday products we know and love. But when you crack open a Fanta or a classic Coca-Cola in the United States, the drink you're sipping could taste totally different than if you bought one in Europe. It's true. Some of the world's most popular drinks taste wildly different around the globe, and some of the reasons why get pretty weird. Coke and Fanta are two very recognizable products, easily distinguishable both by their flavors and labels. Of course, you might expect that their packaging would vary in different countries, but taste is something you'd probably assume to be universal. After all, with such memorable brands, you'd expect to know what you're getting when you pick one up. And yet the flavors vary substantially, and the reasons why come down to local tastes and important differences in production. The taste of orange Fanta, for example, varies from country to country thanks to a distinctive difference in ingredients. While subtle changes do occur based on the quality of sugar available in each country where Fanta is produced, there's one particular difference that affects flavor in a big way. In European countries like Italy and Greece, only natural flavors are used, and most importantly of all, their Fanta includes actual orange juice. As for the US, well, US Fanta is pretty much the complete opposite, with no actual orange juice, but plenty of artificial flavorings and colorings. Plus, American Fanta contains upwards of 30% more sugar than European versions. Indeed, Americans who have tried both variations report that European Fanta tastes more like a refreshing sparkling orange juice and less like carbonated orange cough syrup. But the differences don't only occur in Europe. Heading to Southeast Asia, the differences are just as noticeable. In places like Thailand and Vietnam, the sugar content is much higher than the rest of the world, even more so than America. It makes for an exceptionally sweet surprise for non-locals. Other countries also have various flavors of Fanta that reflect local tastes. The US keeps it pretty traditional with flavors like grape, while Bolivia manufactures Fanta papaya, catering to the national popularity of the fruit. Over in Japan, you can find Fanta banana and Fanta salted watermelon, both of which are reportedly surprisingly good. One of Japan's other weird flavors, milk Fanta on the other hand, I think I'll pass. But what about good old Coca-Cola? How different could it possibly be? Well, if you pick up a classic refreshing Coke imported from Mexico, for example, don't expect the same drink as the standard American variety. Coke from Central and South America tastes notably different than a Coke from the US, with tasters reporting slightly more of a root beer-like flavor in South American Coke. But the taste of Mexican Coke specifically is a surprisingly controversial topic. While some cola connoisseurs believe Coke is sweeter in Mexico due to Mexican Coke containing cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup, this is actually a misconception. Coke that's produced in Mexico solely to be exported to the USA under the label Mexican Coke does contain cane sugar, but Coca-Cola made for consumption within Mexico actually uses high fructose corn syrup like almost everywhere else. Cane sugar used to be standard for all produced Coca-Cola until they made the move to the cheaper to produce high fructose corn syrup in the 80s. While some insist cane sugar makes the exported Mexican Coke taste sweeter, the science says otherwise, as researchers have determined high fructose corn syrup to be 1.5 times sweeter than sugar. Occasionally though, variations in the taste of Coke are more certain and can even vary within the same country. Coca-Cola aficionados will tell you that McDonald's Coke is scientifically superior to other vendors. The reason? McDonald's has an exclusive deal to receive its Coke syrup in metal containers, retaining a more full, untainted flavor, whereas other vendors get theirs in plastic. Diet Coke, meanwhile, also varies in flavor substantially around the world due to differences in carbonation levels as well as the types of sweeteners used. Certain countries even stock Coca-Cola Light, which is a slightly sweeter version of Diet Coke that uses cyclamates as its sweeteners. Anyone else feeling thirsty all of a sudden? Coke isn't the only caffeinated beverage whose taste differs by location. The preparation methods and flavors people prefer for their coffee can differ almost beyond recognition. For starters, the coffee beans that are largely responsible for a coffee's flavor can be affected by the soil, weather, and even altitude at which they're grown. For example, Kona coffee grown on the side of an active Hawaiian volcano is highly prized in the US for being medium-bodied and perfectly rich. The processing of the beans also results in different flavors. In Ethiopia, the best coffee comes from wild coffee trees instead of being farmed on plantations. The growing region and style of fermentation that follows comes together to produce a dark, bold, and earthy cup of joe. Kopi Luwak coffee originated in Indonesia and is one of the costliest, yet its origins are less than appetizing. Coffee cherries and the coffee beans inside are eaten by the Asian palm civet, partially fermented in its digestive tract and then pooped out. The beans are then harvested and processed into an unusually smooth tasting cup of coffee. You'd think if there was any way to make a crappy cup of joe it'd be that, but some people find the brew to be delicious. Others strongly disagree. Kopi Luwak producers claim that careful selection of which coffee cherries the civet is allowed to eat and ensuing its stress levels are low results in premium coffee. So knowing that Kopi Luwak exists, the next time you order a latte on vacation, don't be surprised if it doesn't taste like the coffee back home. But for those who want coffee and want it now, instant coffee flavor varies too. Nescafe manufactures nearly 200 different types, each tailored to a specific region and country. In Asia, they sell sachets with a blend of coffee, milk, and sugar. In the UK, you can pick up instant Nescafe coffee made using beans from Sumatra, Indonesia. I hope that somewhere out there, there's an instant coffee connoisseur trying each and every one of these variations. That's the kind of show I'd watch. While instant coffee is found pretty much everywhere, when it comes to the world's best hot chocolate, you can forget the powdered stuff. International hot chocolate tends to be much more unique than popular US brands. In France, for example, the hot chocolate is made fresh using chunks of chocolate, cream, and sugar melted together into an almost fondue-like consistency. It's so thick it's almost unsippable and requires a spoon or something to dunk. Other countries include surprising ingredients, like in Hungary, where it isn't unheard of to sprinkle a little paprika on your hot cocoa, or in Colombia, where hot chocolates often contain cinnamon, and of all things, cubes of melted cheese, giving a sweet and salty flavor. Mexico has its own traditional take on hot chocolate too, which is made using tablets of cacao, sugar, milk, cinnamon, and sometimes even corn flour. But if you're looking for something a little more 21s only, may I suggest a pint of Guinness. The iconic Jet Black Stout is a globally sold beer, but it tastes very different depending on where you are. More than 22 different variations are produced today bearing the Guinness name, and the difference in taste between them is largely due to the varying alcohol content. It's roughly 4.3% in Europe and Ireland, but almost double that in Nigeria. Nigerian Guinness also uses sour gum instead of barley as it grows better within the region. The end product is reportedly full-flavored and striking. Though with 7.5% ABV, I'm surprised anyone can remember how it tastes. But being a distinctly Irish drink, many insist the best tasting Guinness can be found in its hometown of Dublin. And it might just be true. This reputation likely exists because Guinness is served in astoundingly high amounts in Dublin, meaning less time to sit in the tap pipes and pick up unwanted flavors. Plus, servers in Dublin pubs are connoisseurs of the famously tricky pour and make sure to serve it at the perfect temperature, in the correct glass, and with the perfect head. I'll take two. At the end of a long day drinking Guinness, a bedtime glass of milk is sure to help you drift off. But you might be in for a surprise if you're abroad, as milk's flavor varies a considerable amount depending on where you are. The flavor of milk varies from place to place due to fat content, the cow's diet, the hormones or antibiotics they're given, and the pasteurization process. In some communities like the Kenyan Maasai tribe, milk is consumed raw or unpasteurized, resulting in a generally sweeter and fuller flavor. Another consumer of raw milk are the people of the Tibetan Plateau. 95% of the world's yaks live there, so naturally, they rely on yak milk instead of regular cow's milk. Yak's milk reportedly tastes sweeter, richer, and a little sharper in flavor than cow's milk, and the people of the Tibetan Plateau also make butter from it. But the butter isn't just spread on toast. They use it to flavor tea. Their tea includes salt in addition to the butter, resulting in a rich and decidedly less sweet beverage than tea usually consumed with a British or American breakfast. But while raw yak milk is popular in Tibet, unpasteurized milk brings the risk of infection and spoiling, and the live cultures within it make it taste increasingly bitter over time. In many countries, milk is required to be pasteurized, and places like Germany commonly use ultra-heat treatment to ensure the hygiene and longevity of their milk. These treatments reportedly lead to a more malty tasting milk that can present a potentially unpleasant surprise to anyone familiar with standard pasteurized milk. But when there aren't enough pastures to meet demand, countries like Japan have to get a little inventive in order to give consumers the white stuff they want. Japanese companies import powdered milk, add water, and then add just enough milk from Kyushu or Hokkaido to legally claim the milk is from Japanese cows. Pretty sneaky, huh? Sorry, people of Japan, but if you can't trust your milk, who can you trust? As for me, I think I'll grab a Mexican Coke. Which drinks have you noticed taste different around the world? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.